The Wagner Group's mutiny is over, but its consequences are not. Yevgeny Prigozhin. On Saturday morning, he said his Wagner forces would march to Moscow. By Saturday night, his destination had changed to Belarus.
The Wagner Group over the weekend created somewhat of a historic moment as they challenged the power and the authority of Vladimir Putin. Now, the Wagner Group is the key private military corporation that Vladimir Putin has been using in the invasion of Ukraine. They are also very active throughout the continent of Africa. They have been credibly accused of war crimes, including some 500 civilians who were killed and buried in a mass grave. This is a group that, despite them challenging the power of Vladimir Putin, is not the type of organization that you want in control of nuclear weapons. And so while the coup has ended and Vladimir Putin is still in power and the war in Ukraine is still going on, it is a sigh of relief for the stability of the entire planet that a person like Prigozhin did not get his hands on nuclear weapons. That said, Prigozhin and the Wagner Group did deal a significant blow to the reputation, the stature, and the internal power of Vladimir Putin with this coup that came to an end as a result of negotiations between the Wagner Group's leader, Prigozhin, Vladimir Putin, and the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. So what started off over the weekend as being one of the most significant, potentially shaping up to be one of the most significant weekends in world history, comparable only to that of the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, which Vladimir Putin alluded to in his speech, in his only televised speech. As a result of this, the weekend ended anticlimactically. And you know what? That's a win. When we consider the alternative was to put nuclear weapons in the hands of someone like Prigozhin, who literally used a sledgehammer to kill a defector. You know, he is not the type of person that you want around that kind of power. Most certainly, we did not need Prigozhin to have access to Russia's nuclear armaments. And so it's better served for humanity that the weekend ended anticlimactically in this way. And there is also the reality of the destabilization of Vladimir Putin's internal power, domestic power there in the nation of Russia as it moves forward in its continued invasion of Ukraine. This did present an opportunity for the Ukrainians, potentially as a way of ending this war. It would have been poetic if the Wagner Group had undermined Vladimir Putin to the point where he had to leave power. But it was just entirely too risky of a possibility for these weapons to fall into the hands of a person who would clearly take that as an opportunity to forward his own personal financial gain. And that is who the Wagner Group's leader, Prigozhin, that is who he is. One bit of commentary before we go on this particular topic. The amount of people who bought into the right-wing talking point that this coup was sponsored by Joe Biden and the CIA. There were, of course, the MAGA Republicans and conservatives who always look for some way to make everything about Joe Biden, came up with that talking point, and it began spreading all over social media to the point of absurdity. You even had some leftists, some former comrades of mine who bought into it and believe that this is an example of the CIA trying to do regime change. Now, to be sure, clearly, anyone who has studied, even remotely studied the CIA understands that they are very capable of committing regime changes. They have a long track record of successfully overthrowing governments and installing their puppets, someone they can control, especially if we're considering that this is a nuclear power. If the CIA were to overthrow a nuclear power, it is certainly going to be the case that they're not going to install someone who could potentially use a nuclear weapon simply to increase his bottom line. Okay, his personal bottom line. The CIA, I'm laughing about this because, you know, it's the CIA has such a horrible track record because of what they have done in terms of overthrowing governments that it becomes so easy to blame them for everything. But I just really wanted people to take in consideration the lapse of logic here to suggest that the CIA would coup a nuclear power and install someone as erratic and uncontrollable as Prigozhin. And to think that they would do that in order to distract, this was the actual talking point, to distract from what's going on with Hunter Biden. Okay. That's like, I mean, I don't even have a good comparison, but that's like blowing up the city of New York because you saw a spider. Okay. That's how absurd that thinking is. But that did not stop people from spreading that and really just deeply believing it because of the track record of the CIA. And that therein lies the problem. It's the ease with which these propaganda points and these lies can spread. And it's rooted in the fact that the CIA is, they are the people who love to overthrow democracies and install dictators, especially if they can control that dictator. But does anyone under the sound of my voice actually think that the CIA could control Prigozhin? And then even furthermore, do you think that the United States of America would put nuclear weapons that could destroy the United States of America and the entire planet into the hands of someone as reckless as Prigozhin? Which is why it's far more likely, in my estimation, based on everything that I've ever studied, that the CIA would more likely be involved in the negotiated truce between Vladimir Putin and Prigozhin, Wagner's group Prigozhin, that was fostered by Belarus's president, Alexander Lukashenko. It's far more likely that they were involved in fostering that peace than they would be turning nuclear weapons over into the hands of a man that is far more destructive than Vladimir Putin, a man who actually does not care about his war crimes being public, has no desire whatsoever to give any illusion that he is a statesman. He is a mercenary with an army of people behind him, which, last but not least, should be a warning to every nation to stop using these private military contractors. Period.